That's right, Joanne. As I speak to you now, actually, a lot of NUMSA supporters and a lot of course, these people are also in support of Zwelinzima Vavi. They have been here throughout the hearing of this trial. And of course, Zwelinzima Vavi, as you correctly say, has just been, his suspension has just been declared invalid and therefore set aside. Now, I have with me, Joanne, the Deputy General Secretary of NUMSA, and that is Karl. Now, you'll know that NUMSA has been at the forefront, one of those unions that have been at the forefront of actually supporting the call for Zwelinzima Vavi to come back into office. And I bring him in now. Mr. Cloete, thank you for your time. Your reaction to this particular declaration by the court here today?
Well, we should say a few things. Firstly, the 9 unions that have called for a Cosatu Special National Congress, we are now vindicated by how wrong the Cosatu CEC of August 2013 was to have suspended the General Secretary, Comrade Zwelinzima Vavi. We've always maintained that the current Cosatu national office bearers are leading the federation on the basis of a faction. They're not leading the federation on behalf of all of the affiliated unions. And the best thing for them to do at this point is to resign from office and to allow Cosatu to take its rightful place in the South African society.
Let me come in there. What then is the way forward now? Do you press ahead with the call for the Special National Congress? What happens with immediate effect? And what becomes of Zwelinzima Vavi? Does it go back straight into office after this?
Well, the first thing is that the court has set aside the unlawful suspension of Zwelinzima Vavi as Cosatu General Secretary. And therefore, Zwelinzima Vavi, as of this minute, must return to office. Of course, we know that he has ill health in the family, but we would insist that he return immediately. Secondly, we have written to the Cosatu president 2 days ago, giving him 48 hours to respond to our call for the Special National Congress. If he fails to do so within 48 hours, we are returning to this High Court to instruct Cosatu, because now we don't have an option. They don't respect the Constitution. They willy-nilly violate the Constitution. And we think, as I said, now is the time for them to step down and allow Cosatu to continue its work.
There have been suggestions that whether this court rules in favor of Zwelinzima Vavi or not, if indeed it does rule as it has done today, that his suspension is invalid, that the suggestion would be Cosatu will simply go back and do the procedural thing to do, which was to do it properly this time around. How do you respond to those suggestions?
The first thing we must say is that the reason why we are in court today is because of an incident between Vavi and a junior employee for which he has apologized publicly in the CEC. You would remember that Corruption Watch, in which he serves, reprimanded him publicly. And this is what we thought comrades would do, to say you have done wrong, you've brought the organization into disrepute, however you were elected like us, and therefore we accept your apology with some censure. We know that there's a special CEC next week on the 8th of April, and we think that what they are up to is to basically go back to restore what they have done wrong. And so the battle will continue. We will not push backwards. We are pushing forward to ensure we reclaim Cosatu as a democratic, worker-controlled and independent organization.
Now, just lastly, Mr. Cloete, just on that point, you want to reclaim Cosatu. Suggestions already being made that this may have implications for the ANC-led tripartite alliance. Are we going to see a Cosatu that walks away from that tripartite alliance?
Firstly, we're interested in the broadest unity of Cosatu, all workers under the banner of Cosatu. Secondly, we think that we'll have to do damage control because the Cosatu national office bearers had gone on a path to destroy this federation and to turn it into a labor desk of sorts. We think that Cosatu has much more to do in the country on socio-economic questions, addressing poverty, unemployment and inequality, and the question doesn't arise now whether Cosatu walks away from the ANC. The National Congress of 2015 would determine that.
Does it support the ANC in the upcoming elections?
Well, the current Cosatu position is that it supports the ANC. That's a resolution by Cosatu. It is NUMSA that has taken a different view, but we will have to persuade others in Cosatu to go along with our view.
Thank you very much, Karl Cloete. Thank you very much there. Well, Joanne, that was the Deputy General Secretary of NUMSA, Karl Cloete, of course, telling us that Zwelinzima Vavi right now must go back to office, and that, of course, they're going to go back to the drawing board to make sure that they reclaim Cosatu.
Cloete making an interesting point there, Karl, about the battle continuing after this. Can Cosatu possibly appeal this ruling in court today?
Joanne, I'm so sorry. I can't hear a word of what you're saying. Could you possibly repeat, please?
I'm just wondering whether Cosatu is likely to appeal the ruling that we've had handed down today.
Well, Joanne, that is a question that we certainly will put to Cosatu as to whether or not they're going to appeal this particular decision. But as you heard me asking Karl Cloete earlier, that already there have been suggestions that they may go back and do things properly in terms of suspending Zwelinzima Vavi. So, in my view, that suggestion then is that they may not necessarily want to be in court any longer, but rather go back to Cosatu processes and do those processes properly. But of course, these are merely murmurs or rumors that we're hearing. There's nothing substantive yet. Of course, we'll have to talk to Cosatu about whether or not they are interested or they have any appetite to come back to court to appeal this matter.
Know more. eNCA.com